chance to use the Nikon Z9 in a low-light situation when there were some owls seen and heard in the woods behind my parents' house. We have seen barred owls in the past, so I knew what to look for, but I definitely wasn't prepared for what I was going to see this time. I didn't bring my longer lenses like the 200-400 f4 or the 600 f4 on this trip because I was traveling lighter. All I had was my 300mm F4 PF lens, which is a great little compact telephoto lens. When it comes to wildlife, my first tip is to engage all your senses, and don't just use your eyes to look around. In this case, I could hear a bird in distress chirping and squawking. Smaller birds often do this when predators are around to warn other birds or to try to lure the predators away from a nest or baby bird. My second tip is to check your camera settings and make sure they are correct and you're ready before looking for wildlife. I haven't done this in the past and then seen something and quickly captured photos only to discover that I didn't have a fast enough shutter speed or that my ISO was too high or too low. So I set the Z9 to manual mode and set the widest aperture I could with this lens, which is f4, and a shutter speed of 1/500th of a second. Normally, I would select a faster shutter speed like 1/1000th or 1/2000th for birds because if they fly, I want to have a fast shutter speed to freeze the movement of their wings. But there wasn't a lot of light, so I had to have a trade-off. I also turned on auto ISO so the camera would adjust the ISO sensitivity for me to get that shutter speed of 1/500th of a second. Once I stepped outside, I saw two young owls on low branches in a tree just a few meters away from me. One was chirping and asking for food. After a minute or so, I noticed a third young owl close to the other two. Then I heard the sound of a fourth owl across from the three younger owls. I couldn't believe that there were four owls just a few meters away from me. I was very quiet and they didn't seem to be bothered at all by my presence. In fact, one of the owls flew onto the same branch as another owl and they started to clean and preen each other. After a while, they moved to other branches and spots, but this was a magical experience I will never forget. I had to push the limits of the Z9's low light ability, and many of the images were shot at very high ISOs between 12,800 and 25,600. Most of the time, I was pushing the higher limits of the ISO of 25,600. For the images that were shot at high ISOs, they looked pretty good for being captured at such high ISOs in low light. They were sharp with an expected amount of digital noise. Usually, when looking at high ISOs, I like to compare cameras in exactly the same situation with the same lens like I've done in the past. That wasn't possible in this situation, so I would like to do a direct comparison in the future using the Z9. By the way, if you haven't seen my 300mm F4 PF photo challenge video where I explore the city with this amazing little lens, please check it out. If you like the content I'm creating, please consider subscribing. Thanks.